Hi, my name is Greg McCracken. My wife Deirdre and I are the owners of Ocean Quest Dive Center, a PADI Career Development Center and Tech Rec Center located here in Greater Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm here to give you some tips on how to conduct the PADI Peak Performance Buoyancy course, as well as some ideas on how to conduct buoyancy workshops for your students and your customers. I actually have 4 essential or foundational skills that I try to introduce in a lot of programs that I teach, and the Peak Performance Buoyancy is a really great program to start to introduce some of these concepts. Those 4 essential skills that I like to use are, I describe them with buoyancy, trim, propulsion, and awareness. And of course, buoyancy is the core that we're trying to work on, so good buoyancy is really something that's really important. But buoyancy doesn't really describe how you float in the water, and so that's where we start to talk a little bit about trim. And so depending on the type of diving you're doing, you might want a different type of trim, but in general I find that the best trim to help divers focus on would be a nice horizontal trim where they have their head up so they can help maintain awareness, and have their feet up so they can perhaps not stir up the bottom and damage marine life. As divers progress and become a little bit better with their buoyancy, I find that it's good to teach different fin kicking styles as well. So the ones that we often teach are what we call modified flutter kick, which goes like this. We have the modified frog kick. We like to teach people to turn in a flat plane so they maintain that flat trim, and they can move around and turn and so forth. A lot of people call those helicopter turns. And we also like to teach backwards finning, which is a great challenge for divers, but it does have some practical value as well, in that it allows you to be very stable in the water. You can move in and out, and so let's say I wanted to take a picture of something, you know, I can kind of zoom in just by moving, and then I might even be able to backwards fin a little bit away from the subject and get a different perspective. Same thing with video. One of the things that you might want to introduce when you're conducting a peak performance buoyancy program, or if you want to run just a standalone buoyancy clinic, is introducing a pool dive or maybe a confined water dive. And in this, what I'll do is I'll try to introduce some of the familiar skills that we learn when we're open water divers, and just let people develop and practice them, but again challenging them by doing them all in a neutral buoyancy, or having good neutral buoyancy at the same time. So reg recovery and clear, for example, is a great skill for students to continue to develop and maintain confidence on it, because they may not practice it a lot following their open water training. So it's a good opportunity for us to review some of these skills, but when they do it horizontally in a nice neutral form, it just adds a new element to it, and so I find that works really well. Another really good one, which kind of has the same reasons, would be alternate air source. For me, I think it's really important that divers continue to practice alternate air source and sharing air with their buddies. Just because, again, it's an unlikely situation, but if it ever does occur, we want them to handle the situation with confidence. Adding it with a neutral buoyancy element to it, again, just gives them a unique challenge. And so what I like to do is have the divers start with neutral buoyancy, and then one of the divers out of air, and so they share air, and even introduce some swimming, and then maybe even some ascents. And so when they're doing the ascents, I might even, if I have a deeper pool, you know, 12 feet or 4 meters in that range, you can actually have them stop and do a short little hover while sharing air at the bottom, have them maybe ascend a few feet or a meter, and then have them stop again and do a short little hover, 30 seconds to a minute, and then have them even go up one more time and stop just below the surface, and then do a short little hover. The buoyancy aspect of it is interesting, simply because what you're doing is you're not only challenging them to do a skill and be a bit task loaded while they're trying to maintain buoyancy, but they're also tying their buoyancy to another diver, because of course they're connected through the alternate air source, and so that promotes a little bit more communication, and certainly when you're trying to match buoyancy to somebody else, that can be very challenging. in the open water, I like to introduce a few concepts and challenges, and one of them is just something very simple, but just bringing down some hula hoops. And it really adds a unique dynamic if you approach it with some of these foundational skills that we're discussing. Of course, a diver might need to maintain good neutral buoyancy while they're swimming through the hula hoop, but they also have to think a little bit more about their propulsion techniques, simply because if they're trying to do frog kicks, for example, they're going to probably hit the edges of the hula hoop, and it's going to get caught up as they're trying to get through. So they might have to be a little bit more aware of the propulsion techniques that they're using and adjust to a modified flutter kick, which will be a little bit less or a little bit more streamlined while they're swimming through. The other thing, of course, that they need to be more aware of is their equipment. And so the fact that we have tanks on the back protrudes, and so that can get caught up in the hula hoop, as well as having any dangling equipment, alternate air sources or gauges and things like that. And so maintaining that good awareness with the equipment is just really emphasizing all these points as you're going through. Another one is the 1 minute ascent, and so a lot of newer divers and sometimes more experienced divers might have difficulties with their ascents. And of course this ties into safety, but also confidence and control and staying with your buddy. So often what we'll do is have our divers start at about 20 feet or 6 meters, and you can actually incorporate maybe your 1 minute stop that you need to do as part of the performance requirement and have them hover. And then what they can do is they can start doing a very, very slow ascent and basically take a whole minute to get from 20 feet or 6 meters all the way up to the surface. And so makes them focus on each other. They have to go nice and slow, be remembering to exhaust air out of their BCDs or dry suits if they're diving in our local waters, and do a nice, easy ascent. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully I've given you some concepts and some things that you can introduce into your training programs that will help your students become better divers. I would like to take a moment to thank Ken Dunlop, who is our manager here at Ocean Quest, and also a PADI course director, for assisting. He's my buddy in a couple of the videos there, and he also did a lot of the videoing, so he's our in-house videographer as well. And of course to my wife Deirdre, who has helped Ocean Quest become a great place. Certainly one of the things that we decided to do when we first opened up our shop is really focus on having unique training and making things a little bit more than just the basic outlines, and so a lot of these things we've really spent a lot of time developing together. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you again soon.